Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a public hearing on the FY20 proposed operating budget and proposed amendments to the FY19 to 24 capital improvements program and the FY20 to 25 public services program and fiscal policy for the following: Montgomery County Government, Montgomery College, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, and Montgomery County Public Schools. Council committees will conduct work sessions on the budgets over the next 3.5 weeks, beginning on Thursday, April 11th. Full council work sessions will begin in May. The committee schedule is available on the council's website. For everyone scheduled to testify, please bring copies of your written testimony to the clerk at this time. Before beginning your presentation, please state your name clearly for the record. We're going to start with Group A: Chris Bolton, Ebony Gatson, Tim Weens, Mike Knapp, Eric Salzano, and Merle Katita. Please come to the table. Chris Bolton. Please press the button at the base of the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm here for the East County Citizens Advisory Board, and we identified 4 key areas in the East County that the residents have made their priorities. One, we'd like to expand health care to include mental health services. There's not a lot of mental health services in East County. There's not a lot of mental health services in East County that sufficiently address our residents' need, especially residents with mental health issues. We'd also like you to look at expanding out-of-school programs and summer programs to include low-income households. Currently, the rec department, they're trying their best, but it's just not sufficient enough. So we'd like you to look at maybe expanding the funding into that. Our second one is a growing economy. We'd ask you to keep pressure on the Burtonsville Shopping Center to ensure that they are utilizing that space to the best of its potential. We'd also like you to look at workforce development. With the growing and expanding plans for East County, especially near the White Oak Medical Center and the FDA, we'd ask that with all the jobs coming that you provide workforce development for the residents of the county so we can have county residents filling East County jobs. Our third area is the BRT. The BRT, we would like to see an expanded ride-on presence to take people to the BRT. There's no point in having the BRT if people have to drive and maybe they're late and they decide to skip the BRT. So if they have buses that will take them from their neighborhoods, that will lessen the blow of traffic, especially along Route 29. Our last one is a more welcoming and affordable community. We'd ask that you look into keeping the level of senior funding, expanding senior programs, not cutting them. And the 3rd and 4th district, we'd like to see expanded funding. Right now, there's a 3-officer shortfall because officers get in the 3rd district and they transfer out for promotion. So we'd like to see expanded funding, especially in the 3rd and 4th districts. And with this expanding community that's coming, we'd like to have a police presence in place when all this takes place. Lastly, we'd like to ensure that bike and pedestrian safety is taken into consideration, especially along Route 29. We thank you for the efforts that have been put in place, but there's still work to be done. I thank you for your time. I know I started early. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebony Gatson? No? Tim Weens? Oh, Ebony? Okay. Ebony, can you please press the button at the base of the microphone? Right. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Ebony Gatson. So good evening, members of the County Council and County Council President Navarro. I am currently a junior majoring in information science with University of Maryland College Park at the universities at Shady Grove. When I was in 7th grade, I participated in the Young Writers Club, a program sponsored by Passion for Learning that fostered my writing and digital media skills. As an alum, I've had the opportunity to work as a program assistant in the summer and after-school programs that help students gain skills in coding, physical computing, and video game design and development, which were also sponsored by Passion for Learning, Inc. Being a program assistant was important to me because it helped to enhance my previous knowledge in coding languages and even inspired me to hone in on my web development and circuitry skills. Being a part of the information and communication technology programs allowed for an environment where students, instructors, and assistants collaborate to create fun, more interactive programs. Because of Passion for Learning and the programs they offered, one of my career goals is to start programs that teach women, inmates, and young girls how to become digital citizens by providing them with the tools to code and analyze data. In order to take action, I recently co-founded a club on my university campus called Ladies in Tech that is designed to empower and support women and non-binaries who are interested in computational fields such as data science and cybersecurity. As a first-generation student, college student, I am fortunate enough to have the unconditional support of Passion for Learning through technical experience that inspires the next generation of girls to pursue an education and career in STEM. On behalf of Passion for Learning, we would like to request funding for the college readiness and ICT programs. Funding these programs means investing in the future of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Weems?
President Navarro, Vice President Katz, member of the
Tim, can you move the mic a little bit?
sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry. And Ebony, can you please press the button again to turn that one off? Thank you.
President Navarro, Vice President Katz, members of the County Council. My name is Tim Weems. I am the Executive Director of Jubilee Association of Maryland. I'm also the co-chair of Interact DD, a coalition of over 30 agencies serving folks with developmental disabilities in Montgomery County. When Montgomery County passed the $15 an hour minimum wage bill last year, we asked the county to keep us at an average direct service wage of $15 an hour, so that we do not fall behind. The County Council unanimously passed a bill to do just that, to keep us at 125% of minimum wage. The County Council passed that, and the County Executive signed that into law. We have worked with the Department of Health and Human Services to calculate how much we need each year to stay up with the increasing minimum wage, and that calculation is attached to my testimony. It reflects both the increase in the minimum wage for July 1st as well as the growth in services. Not only did the county executive not include the growth factor for FY20, which is almost $1.4 million, but he also cut the base program by $1.8 million. We feel the county made a promise to us that's not being honored, thus our signs. We know that the county executive strongly supports services to the people with IDD, the people that we serve, and that he supports paying our direct support professionals a living wage. We feel that he has gotten bad advice in this matter concerning issues of compliance. At the heart of the issue is whether or not overtime should be included in doing the averaging that we're held to. Of the 4 DD programs that this supplement covers, only residential is in trouble, and that's where most of the overtime wages are paid. We are asking the council to restore the $1.8 million cut to the supplement. We are also asking for the almost $1.4 million to help us grow in the next year. So the total of those two numbers is $3.2 million. That's what we need to be where we think we need to be going forward. There is a difference of understanding between Interact, our members, and the county executive and the HHS staff over methodology to determine compliance with the 125% rule. We are asking that a work group be formed to study that issue of compliance so that we can come to a common understanding of the requirements of the law. We are more than willing to be held accountable for the funds that we have been given to be used for direct service wages, and we think the majority of those have been used in that way. We are in discussion with the county executive's office and staff and HHS, and we are hopeful of finding resolution and working with them. We know they're considering an amendment to restore the $1.8 million, and if we do that, we would still need the $1.4 million. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Also, for those of you who are blocking the aisles, you need to go to the cafeteria. We are streaming. It's all ready for you, but because of fire code, we cannot have anybody blocking any of the aisles. So please consider going one floor down to the cafeteria where it's already being streamed. Thank you. Mike Knapp.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I just want to thank you for a couple things first. First, thank you for your willingness to meet with the college and your individual meetings and hosting us and listening to our discussions of the budget. Also, thank you very much for your prior year support of Montgomery College. We're very appreciative of that, as are the many students. My name is Mike Knapp, and I am currently serving as chair of our Board of Trustees. And candidly, we're pretty frustrated. We knew going into this year between our administration and the board that we were going to face a very lean fiscal year, and so we tried to be as responsive as we could. We moved $2.8 million from our budget from last year to this year as requested. We cut $8 million from our current budget. We negotiated sustainable contracts with our employees in the 2.5%, which is an all-in number, not with various steps and other increases. And what was the response? As a result, we were the only department or agency to actually receive a 1.8% reduction in our total appropriation. So we know what we're trying to do. You know what we're trying to do. We are trying to ensure that we have an educated workforce. We are trying to ensure that we are well positioned to provide access to all of the students in Montgomery County who are seeking that. We are confronting challenges as all are. We are seeing a reduction in our enrollment for 1 year, but the challenge that we're seeing in that is the trend line continues to be up, and we're also trying to ensure that we have a foundation of support to be ready to address the population that's coming through MCPS currently. I could go on, but you all recognize the value. Our biggest frustration is how do we tell our employees that while they're looking at 2.5%, other groups are going to get raises potentially as high as 9%. And so our option is now to go back to either renegotiate with them to take 2.5% lower, or we end up cutting $3 million out of our other programs, such as ACES or Achieve the Dream, to ensure that we can pay our employees. And we sat there and looked at that and go, how is that going to work? And last evening we had to vote to raise tuition for our students at a time when we know that the students we have can't afford the tuition that we're currently charging. And so that's a minimum thing that we have to be able to do. And so if we didn't do that, we're $3 million further in the hole. And so we look at that and go, okay, what else could we have done to be responsive to the needs and the challenges that the county is facing? And so with that, we appreciate the support you've provided us. We recognize that you understand what Montgomery College does for our community. And our challenge is now to work with you over the course of the next few weeks to figure out how we can address that to ensure that we have the faculty and staff that we need to be supportive to do the things that we need a strong community college do in our community. And so I thank you very much for listening, and we stand ready to do all that we can to support you and your support of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Salzano.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eric Salzano, and I'm with CSAC. We have been serving people with autism in Montgomery County for 40 years. We're a grassroots organization created by parents and family members here in Montgomery County. Nearly 40 years ago, Montgomery County recognized the need for quality services and also understood the higher costs associated with operating within the county. And what is now called the County Supplement was created. Several years ago, these funds were delinked from higher costs of operation and solely dedicated to the rising county minimum wage. Since that time, providers have been under considerable financial stress. In March of 2019, the county informed 25 providers they were out of compliance with the minimum wage law. The determination was based on one small survey of one pay period in September of 2018. From our perspective, the county executive's position is seriously flawed for the following reasons. The mandate was a one-size-fits-all, meaning programs with residential components were severely disadvantaged. No guidance was ever issued to the providers. It was also never clear if overtime and bonuses were counted, which they must be counted. They are legal wages and an expense for providers. Nobody was ever concerned if the funds for the providers was enough to accomplish the task, which I can testify, at least for CSAC, it was inadequate. However, despite budget challenges, we at CSAC put every single cent, 100% of the mandated state and the Montgomery County supplement towards our direct care workers. We were able to raise wages and create a bonus pool for our direct care workers. Our actual costs in labor rose about $1 million last year, not including rising health care costs and rising payroll taxes, all paid by CSAC. Let's state what's really going on here. The county executive's supposed non-compliance, it's about the money. It's always about the money. The county is facing a deficit, so all the smoke and mirrors talk about not complying with the law is to conceal the fact that the county executive desires to make cuts in the budget, and we are a victim of those cuts. Maybe some people believed that we would not have a voice or we would not speak up, or we would simply roll over and play dead. I can assure you that is not the case. We are now faced with a massive funding cut, which will put our organization and others into a death spiral. If the proposed cuts are successful, it will be the end of quality service in Montgomery County. Some providers will go under, while others will simply move out of the county, denying our citizens vital services. You really need to ask yourself, how does cutting the funding help achieve the goal of 125% of the minimum wage? I am proud of our organization and the people we serve. I am urging that the funds be restored and that the county meet with providers so that they can understand the complexities of the problem we face. We are asking the most vulnerable citizens be protected. In closing, I'd like to quote Dr. Martin Luther King, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Merle Katita.
So I get to follow that?
All about time. Nice job.
Good evening, President Navarro and members of the Montgomery County Council. My name is Merle Katita, and I am president of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 500. We represent 19,000 employees in Maryland and the District of Columbia, 9,700 of which work for Montgomery County Public Schools, and about 400 adjuncts that work at Montgomery College. The county executive has recommended $14,467,607 less for Montgomery County Public Schools and $3 million less for Montgomery College. The recommendation for MCPS was only $2,500,000 more than the minimum required by the Maintenance of Effort law. This reduction will have considerable impacts on the school district. The Board of Education FY20 budget builds on the foundation and structure that the County Council has supported to ensure that all students are able to achieve at a high level. The union leaders in Montgomery County Public Schools and the Board of Education and the district administration discussed at length amongst ourselves and then with the council last year the fact that we can no longer look at the county's budget 1 year at a time and must lay the foundation for our children's future. To leave MCPS budget recommendation by the county exec would require significant changes to our plan moving forward. Here are just a few areas that would come under reduction in order to meet the county executive's recommendation of $14,467,607. The decrease of early college and middle college programs, reduced focus teacher positions for most highly impacted schools, reduced special education teachers, reduced ESOL teachers, elimination of a targeted approach to reduce elementary class size guidelines, funding for safety initiatives, maintenance, implementation of extended school year calendar at Roscoe Nix and Arcola Elementaries, additional staff for psychologists, counselors, parent community coordinators, and social workers. MCPS is committed to honoring negotiated contracts for all their employees, which is a 1% wage increase plus steps. The Kerwin Commission, there are areas of concern that impact the MCPS budget. One that I will mention in this is that there are numerous pressures that exist, not the least being the significant raises the county executive budget founded for county employees.
Thank you, Ms.
It will be
Gurtita.
the expectation of MCPS employees to receive the similar increase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Rice.
To Ms. Katita and to Mr. Knapp, I just want to assure you, as the lead of our education committee, I can assure you that the concerns that you've put forth in making sure that we are providing these programs that are making a difference when it comes to our equity gap that we see in our schools is incredibly important. And I appreciate you for standing up for the priorities and the values of the children and young people and general citizens that you represent. I really applaud your courage for standing up and saying that this budget is not good enough for you. And to Mr. Weens, you know I've been there. To you, to Jubilee, and to CSAC, let me just say that I've stood alongside you on stage advocating for additional funding. You need the funding, and I know this council stands with you in that effort to correct what the county executive has put forth in his budget.
Thank you. Obviously, I think every single one of my colleagues sitting here is very much committed to making sure that these priorities are funded. As council president, I've also already been in very serious conversations with the superintendent, the Board of Education, as well as the county executive to make sure that we are able to fulfill these particular priorities. I think that in the past, the council has always made these very important priorities, and I am very optimistic that those conversations are going to result in ensuring that the council is able to restore these monies, but also to make sure that this is not something that happens in the future. But I really appreciate everybody being here. We're going to move. Thank you. We're going to move to. Thank you. We're going to move to Group B, and I am going to accommodate Ms. Jane Salzano in this particular panel. John Ruthraff, Chris Lloyd, Leslie McDonald, Cassandra McGlothran, Karen Montgomery, our esteemed Senator Mitchell Tropin. Any chair is fine, Senator. That would be fine. Your name? Nancy? You're in the next group. Yes, ma'am. All right, I'm going to start with Ms. Jane Salzano.
Good evening. I'm Jane Ford Salzano, and I'm speaking to you tonight as a mother and a grandmother. The cut to the FY20 county match not only seriously threatens the lives of my son and my grandson, but 300 others. It is an affront to the staff who work tirelessly to serve them. And it's an insult to CSAC after 40 years of dedicated service to Montgomery County citizens to now be considered miscreants who must be punished. But of course, it is the people we serve who will be punished. If CSAC is not properly funded, it will soon be out of business. It will not just limp along, it will be gone, never to return. Like Humpty Dumpty, once it falls, it cannot be put back together. I lie awake nights to think what will happen, not only to my family members, but to several other hundred other from 18 months to 79 years old served by CSAC. My son Brian, the impetus for starting CSAC, is now 61 years old. He's had a good and quiet life with CSAC for 40 years. Although at times his behavior can be distressing, I still love my son. I want him to be well cared for. After all, he didn't ask to be born with autism. As I look at you this evening, I wonder what has happened to our county executive and council. 40 years ago, County Executive Charlie Grillcrest and the then council members had compassion for and concern about the welfare of our most vulnerable citizens. They willingly gave a grant to start CSAC and provided a county match to all the service providers in recognition of the higher cost of living in Montgomery County. If then providers were protesting, would they have believed that the county match was not properly used without investigating these allegations? Could they have believed that overtime and bonuses are not part of the county mandated minimum wage? No, they would have created a special workforce to investigate. They would have protected the lives of our endangered, disabled citizens. Advance the clock 40 years. Does this county executive and council care about the endangered people who are threatened to be thrown by the wayside? They won't do well in homeless shelters. Do they care about the false allegations of improperly spent money which sullies CSAC reputation? Does it matter the heartache and panic the family members are being suggested to? And what about the families whose sons and daughters leaving MCPS in June, who as of today have had their admissions postponed? Or that their care staff members are worried about their jobs supporting their families?
Thank you, Ms. Salzano. We will
All right.
definitely read the rest of your
All
testimony.
right.
I appreciate you being here.
The answers are in your hearts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. John Ruthrath.
I'm John Ruthroff, here representing Action in Montgomery. Good evening, County Council members. I'm a 30-year resident of Montgomery County and live in the house I bought in 1990. I have never testified before a council hearing, but this evening I'm representing Action in Montgomery, or AIM, to support increased funding for the Housing Initiative Fund. I'm also a member of the River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation and which is one of AIM's 30 member organizations that include churches, mosques, synagogues, schools, and nonprofit organizations. We represent over 50,000 Montgomery County residents. When AIM conducted a listing sessions with over 33,000 residents, affordable housing was the #1 issue we heard across race, income level, and in all parts of the county. Our teachers, child care and health providers, police, firemen and women, and other county workers who support and protect us, as well as workers in retail and service jobs, are finding it increasingly difficult to live within a reasonable distance from their work. This also affects veterans from the Vietnam era, of which I am one, who are reaching retirement age but can't afford to continue living in the county. I don't want to have to move far away from our neighbors who I've known for many years at a time when social support is especially important. Affordable housing is also key to quality education for our students in the Montgomery County Public Schools. Increasing rent in market rate affordable housing is one of the top drivers for families moving, causing upwards of 30% mobility rates in our highest poverty schools. As I'm sure you know, moving disrupts student education and harms long-term educational outcomes. Affordable housing near public transit is key to moving people out of poverty, and we need more funding if we're to make a significant impact on this issue. We thank the county for working with AIM for more than 15 years to increase funding for the Housing Initiative Fund. We are here tonight to ask you to go beyond the county executive's current proposal and above last year's total funding level of $64 million. AIM asks that you provide at least $72 million for affordable housing in this budget year. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Lloyd.
Thank you, President Navarro. In a recent editorial in the Los Angeles Times, UTLA President Alex Caputo Pearl wrote, "I have taught in Compton and at Crenshaw High Schools. I've been in my own children's classrooms, and I've visited hundreds of other schools. There is wonderful promise in the students in all of our schools, but although they are surrounded by wealth, students across the city are not getting what they deserve. Enough is enough. Invest in our students now." The current situation between LA Unified and United Teachers Los Angeles is a struggle over the very future of public education. Mr. Caputo's Pearl's words echo those of other educators across the nation and certainly represent those of us who teach in Maryland, where the Kirwan Commission has found that schools are underfunded to the tune of $2.9 billion annually. That's about $2 million per school each year. And it's worse in Montgomery because our figure is $488 million underfunding annually. In nominal dollars, county spending per pupil has dropped dramatically over the past decade. At the same time, the number of students highly impacted by poverty has increased. And when you look at real dollars, the trends become even more pronounced. According to the state of Maryland, Department of Commerce, and the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, Montgomery County had in 2017, $91.2 billion of personal income, outpacing the second highest county in this state by 185%. The average sales price of a home is over $535,000, outpacing the second county by $87,000. Like Los Angeles, this county has tremendous wealth in both property and personal income, and great disparity in the high and low ends of the scale. According to the Department of Commerce, again for the state of Maryland and the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, for fiscal year 2019, the combined state and county real property tax rate was 85 cents per $100 here, placing the county with the second lowest tax rate in the state. The county's business personal property tax of $1.85 per 100 is the 8th lowest in the state. Educators now face a myriad of challenges as we seek to support students academically, emotionally, mentally, and physically. The escalating stresses on people in poverty, those who need additional support, and are most vulnerable must be met with an equally robust safety net. And currently, that net is under strain and fraying. We see it in the stress that educators face. We have to import 62% of our educators here in the state, while Massachusetts imports 6%. And you get to the point as a teacher where there are no more efficiencies. And the very reason that you entered this work to guide young scholars in achieving their dreams is just so hard to do with little time and such great demands. Tonight, I ask you to restore the superintendent's December 4th request of $29 million over MOE, knowing that 14,000 educators will help you fight for the schools our children deserve. We can't put a price on the worth of our children, but we have a moral and statutory obligation not to underfund their education.
Thank you. Leslie McDonald.
Hi, I'm Leslie McDonald, Executive Director of Nonprofit Montgomery. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm happy to testify tonight on behalf of Nonprofit Montgomery and our 160 member agencies who provide services here in Montgomery County. We strengthen this nonprofit sector through leadership and capacity building programs, advocate for nonprofits and the people they serve, and address community challenges through Montgomery moving forward. As you know, nonprofits have a strong partnership with Montgomery County. The county contracts with nonprofits to provide essential services to county residents, including feeding, sheltering, counseling, caring for children, helping young people aspire to college, and much more. But I didn't come here to pluck at your heartstrings. I actually want to talk about partnership and contracts. One specific way that Montgomery County partners with Nonprofit Montgomery is by supporting our FIRM program. FIRM is a financial leadership program that helps nonprofit leaders develop comfort, confidence, and competence in financial leadership of nonprofit organizations. FIRM helps nonprofit board members and executive directors understand what funding is required to meet their mission, what it costs to deliver service, and how to run a sustainable organization. FIRM was developed in collaboration with the county and other local funders and is a valuable and unique resource here in Montgomery County. DHHS still invests in FIRM, and that's largely out of the recognition that if the county is going to rely on nonprofits to provide services, then it has an interest in making sure that nonprofits are sustainable. As I mentioned, FIRM teaches important lessons about sustainability and the actual costs involved in delivering service. And because of this training, nonprofit leaders in Montgomery County can clearly see the impact of low or no increases in county contracts with nonprofits. No or limited increases weaken nonprofits over time. Without increases to compensate for the impact of rising costs and minimum wage, nonprofits become unsustainable. Program quality suffers from staff turnover, and eventually nonprofits go out of business. We see this sad spiral in other areas of the country where nonprofit viability is eroded over time by payment delays and arcane contracting and procurement processes. Key nonprofits that the community relies on weaken and eventually shut their doors. Fortunately, we're not seeing that here in Montgomery County. I want to also assure you that Montgomery County nonprofits work hard to leverage county funding with grants and individual giving, sometimes $2 or $3 to every dollar that the county gives. To maintain quality services and sustainable nonprofits, we need contract increases for nonprofits providing services for the county built into the county budget. And barring that, because that did not happen this year, we asked the council to commit to adding the necessary funds to increase nonprofit contracts by a modest 3% in the FY20 budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. McDonald. Cassandra McLaughlin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cassandra McLaughlin. I'm here on behalf of South Lake today. I attended South Lake as a student as well as my sister, and now my son goes to South Lake as well, who is here with me this evening. Because of the influence and dedication that South Lake plays, not only in the students, but the families, is the reason why families would like to stay in the area despite the rising cost of housing. I'm here today to ask you 3 things. One is to fully fund the amended capital improvement plan, including renovations for both South Lake and Burke Mills as well, to expand Excel Beyond the Bell to 2 additional schools this coming school year, and to fully fund parent engagement and training. My first ask is that we need a school to reclaim our vision of what a community could and should look like. South Lake is already doing so much for the community in our insufficient space. Some of these things include partnering with community institutions to ensure that children are fed during the summer and winter holidays, hosting immigration clinics for families and creating a safe place for them, as well as providing high quality and affordable and high quality after school programs such as Excel Beyond the Bell. South Lake Elementary School and Burnt Mills Elementary School were added as a supplement and amendment to the Capital Improvement Plan, CIP for short. According to each of the new key indicators, we are qualified. For several years, South Lake has been qualified. We are not ADA compliant. We are not fire/life safety compliant. Our cafeteria is miserable, and the list goes on and on. My second ask is about Excel Beyond the Bell. As we all know from the recent Office of Legislative Oversight report, show that there's a real gap in inequality in access to high quality education, which some of the other speakers touched on today. The data from the OLO report showed that outliers, worst one was South Lake. My third ask for you all this evening is to fully fund parent engagement. As you saw on March 14th at the AIM Action in Bethel, and February 26th at Family Market Day, our parents are engaged out at South Lake. Tonight, I close with asking you 3 things. Will you fully fund amendments to the CIP such that there will be sufficient funds for renovations at South Lake, expand EBB in 2 additional schools,
Thank you,
and will
Ms.
continue to
McLaughlin.
fund parent engagement?
Thank you so much. We will, thank you. We will read the rest of your written testimony. Thank you. Senator Karen Montgomery. Please press the button at the base of the microphone. Thank you.
I'm here today as a parent, and if I may take the privilege of asking my son, Richard, would you stand up, Richard? You will notice, thank you, Rich, you can sit back down. You will notice you have not heard Richard. You'll notice he was able to very kindly accommodate his mother, and his mother and he are still alive. I can tell you that 15 years ago, murder and suicide were definitely in my package. the suicide mine, you can imagine the other. I am not kidding. Windows were broken, furniture was trashed, a head had a constant bruise, constant noises, which you've been hearing lately, were ongoing, damage to the home and damage to other property. No public schools would have him. There was a woman with foresight in our midst. She's called Jane Salzano. And for me to be alive today and my son to be alive, I credit Jane, having founded CSAC in 2 classrooms of a public school, cutting the funding of these staff members who deal with sounds, occasional physical brutalization, and arguing over what are relatively small funds of money to cut will lead to more of these people breaking windows with their heads, biting and kicking the counselors, running in the street and getting hit by cars and jumping out of moving cars. I have not speaking loosely, I am speaking of what happens. I did tell you I was very seriously considering murder and suicide, and to quibble over such small funding as we are quibbling over is unacceptable. I do hope it will be restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Mitchell Tropin.
Good evening, President Navarro.
Please move your microphone closer. And
Okay.
Senator, can you please, yes, turn yours off, the senator. Thank you.
Good evening, President Navarro, members of the County Council. My name is Mitchell Tropin. I'm speaking here tonight on behalf of the Montgomery College Part-Time Faculty Union, which is affiliated with SEIU Local 500. I urge this council to fully support Montgomery College's proposed budget for the next fiscal year. MC is a special place. And let me tell you why I feel this way. To do so, I need to tell you about my neighbor, Richard Wheel. Councilmember Reamer knows of whom I speak. Richard used to be a building engineer before he recently retired and became a successful songwriter. When I was a journalist, Richard often gave me rides to work in downtown DC. As we traveled through the streets of the district, he would point out buildings he had worked on, and he would go say, I helped build that, and I built that, and I helped build that. I was so taken by the personal joy and satisfaction he got from building something lasting. It was something I did not experience as a journalist because there's no real permanence to a news story. Years went by, I went from journalism to teaching, then I got lucky. I got to teach at Montgomery College. At MC, I got to experience what it is like to build something with some permanence to it, participating in many programs that year after year benefit students. After many years, I can say, know that program at MC? I helped build it, and it is a great feeling. But this is not just my story. It is the story of many at Montgomery College. To paraphrase John Lennon, some say I am a dreamer, but at MC, I am far from the only one. Montgomery College encourages everyone, faculty, administrators, staff, to participate in creating creative programs that serve a wide array of students and benefit this county. Programs that serve students who need additional help by offering summer boot camps in math and science, or giving students a great educational experience without the financial burden from purchasing textbooks. We are expanding the definition of a community college by offering early college courses to talented high school students. We offer certificate programs that give our residents the opportunities to learn the skills to get better paying jobs with a future. Now, when you want to build something, you go to a hardware store. We've already got some important supplies in the form of a supportive administration and a faculty and staff that's eager to do more. What we need is financial support. And for us, this council is our hardware store. You're our Home Depot. Or if you're old enough to remember, you're our Heckingers. I ran out of time. Let me say one last thing. Just give me a few more seconds. I urge you to see this year's funding as a down payment for many great things to come. Do not just consider this college's accomplishments, but its possibilities for the future. As the great Nelson Mandela said, let our choices be based on our hopes and not our fears. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Montgomery College students, for being here tonight. Really appreciate your being here as well. And I really do want to also congratulate Ms. Salzano. I believe CSAC is going to celebrate 40 years of extraordinary service. Absolutely. And I would be remiss if our dear friend Nidia Berrios Cordova, who has also been an advocate and a real grateful consumer of all of the services. I know she wishes she could be here as well, but really thank you for that poignant testimony as well, Senator. Councilmember Rice.
I apologize, Madam President. I just have a really quick yes or no question, and it's because I didn't have the testimony from Mr. Lloyd in front of me. Mr. Lloyd, I didn't hear as a part of your testimony, does MCEA support the county executive's budget as it relates to MCPS being shorted $14.5 million that was transmitted to the council?
We are asking for restoration of $29 million for the December 4th. So no, we don't.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now we're on to Group C. Nancy Tolbert, Patricia Galilee, Ella Adams, Chris Standing, Michael Meal, and Jackie DiCarlo. All right, Nancy Tolbert.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Nancy Tolbert. I'm the Executive Director of Calmer, Inc. We've been in business in the county for 27 years, not quite 40, but we serve some very medically and severely disabled people who need total care. They need to be fed, they need to be bathed, they need every aspect of their life depends on direct care staff. Direct care staff jobs are not easy jobs. They have a lot of training they have to do. They have a lot of independent thinking. They're dealing with medications. And the bottom line is, we have spent every cent that was given to us on trying to raise this wage, but we've run into difficulties. I'm one of the 80% of the residential agencies. We're not making it. We're doing our best. The problems become, well, they're complicated, but I'm going to take my 3 minutes and try to say what's going on. When someone calls off sick or somebody can't make it to work, we have no choice to bring someone else in and meet the ratios that we have mandated to provide for the residents. That requires overtime. Some agencies use contract employees. We can't count those wages as part of what we are given. Benefits go up tremendously with wages, unemployment, workers' compensation. All of those costs go up when we raise salaries. The other issue that my agency is particularly experiencing is compression. I have staff who have worked for me, believe it or not, for 27 years that are making the same amount as people coming in the door. We're trying to run this and we're trying to do this, but we're drowning. And it's like, well, you're saying, well, here, have half a life preserver, just drown slower. It's not going to work. And my other colleagues said, we're having a difficult time. You can't define a wage at a 2-week period of time without including everything else that we have to do to run this business. And it's not an easy business. And we're still, even in this county, competing with McDonald's and Burger King for workers. And you know what? Staff are going, I can flip a burger. I don't know if I want to change an adult diaper. So we're in a tough place. We need it restored. We need it looked at so that it works for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Patricia Galilee.
Good evening, council members and President Navarro. My name is Patricia Galilee. I'm here as a private citizen this evening. The current bike lane design is a concern of mine and is posing the design is next to the curb, is posing some serious concerns for persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities make up 11% of the population, and our numbers grow every day. One of the major concerns I have are the planned barriers that block the lanes for the cyclists. Though they are designed to keep them safe, the problem is that if a person with a disability is riding Metro Access requires that the van put the lift down on a curb, not in the street. And so if there is no way to get to the curb because of the barriers, which are proposed to be concrete barriers, then we can see that someone might not be able to get to their apartment building or their work. And that is a major, or the Metro. I have serious concerns. I work right next to the White Flint Metro. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic. I was with the Department of Transportation one day looking at that intersection. They determined that even the crosswalk isn't wide enough. There's no place to drop people off with a car, and to add cyclists to this would be just a nightmare. I just can't even imagine it. We have over 3,000 federal employees working in that area of those three buildings. And you can imagine how congested that can be, especially between 3 and 6 o'clock in the evening, and very dangerous. We have had a fatality at that intersection. The cyclists do ride on the street sometimes. The other day, if we were to share sidewalks, there's some significant dangers there with folks who are blind. And not to mention those of us who can't move quickly out of the way. I was on the sidewalk the other day, and if my dog had moved, he would have been run over by a cyclist. So even though that's sort of pro-bike lane, at the same time, if we're not really looking at this design and considering the folks who are blind and hard of hearing, and those of us who are wearing earphones might as well be deaf as well, to be able to hear, hey, get out of the way, there's a bike coming through. So please read my testimony and consider cutting the funding of bike lanes and giving it towards other more conscious efforts that serve larger population. Thank you.
Thank you. Ella Adams.
Good evening. My name is Ella Adams, and I am a sophomore at Walt Whitman High School. During 2016 alone, 8 students in Montgomery County died by suicide. Numerous others attempted suicide, and countless others thought about taking their own lives. I'm here tonight to ask the council to help tackle this epidemic and fully fund Everymind's county grant request to offer life-saving prevention and intervention efforts to help prevent another one of my peers from dying by suicide. Everymind's education programs promote mental health awareness campaigns like Be the One, which are designed and implemented to help young people during their times of crisis. This critical work empowers young people with the knowledge and resources they need to help themselves or a friend thinking about suicide. As a student, I know the importance of mental health and wellness. Though our sources of stress may differ, my peers and I experience a multitude of stressors that lead many to feel isolated, hopeless, and helpless and depressed. For example, the transition from middle school to high school is often a time of increased stress and anxiety. On top of that, high school can be stressful and demanding, from taking advanced courses, pursuing extracurricular activities, managing relationships, and everything in between. Life as a young person can quickly become overwhelming and difficult to manage. Valuable education programs like those offered by Everymind provide vital resources to students who are stressed out and teach important lifelong skills that help us recognize key warning signs and take action to help ourselves and our friends. My peers and I need to feel empowered to help ourselves and our friends and family when we are experiencing mental health challenges and crises. It's important for us to recognize that we are not alone and that help is available. Every Mind's mental health presentations help us prepare us for those situations and teach us skills we will carry with us for the rest of our lives. Though we will experience stressors as a natural part of our daily lives now and in the future, Every Mind's educational presentations and awarenesses campaigns equip us with the skills needed to handle these successfully. I'm asking for these vital programs not only for myself and my peers, but for our parents, our teachers, our coaches, our faith leaders, all of those who support and surround us every day. They too need to be equipped with the knowledge they might save a young person's life. I hope my peers and I can count on the County Council to fully fund Every Mind's request so they can continue to provide life-saving crisis prevention and intervention education and mental health awarenesses like campaigns like Be the One that are so crucial to me, my friends, and my whole community. Suicide is preventable. We need your support to prevent another one of my peers from tragically ending their life too soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you. Chris Standing.
Good evening, Montgomery County Council members. My name is Chris Standing, and I'm the president of Ask Me chapter of Montgomery College. I'm pleased to speak with you tonight as a representative of approximately 600 bargaining staff members. I'm here to ask you to fully fund the Montgomery College operating budget request. The college has come a long way from its original purpose of helping World War II veterans adjust to post-war society. Since then, MC's mission of helping the community has blossomed to ensuring that every student, regardless of ability, background, economic status, race, or age, has access to higher education. My mother is a proud Montgomery College alumni. She says that Montgomery College gave her the keys to open all the doors that others had closed. MC prepared her so well for a four-year university that she was competitive with the graduate students. And this helped her access and open even more doors of opportunity. The college's commitment to serve every student is pervasive across our campuses. Serving students doesn't take place only in the classroom. Our students need our support each and every day, both inside and outside of the classroom. MC staff do an amazing job of helping students, each student with the many and varied individual needs every single day. For students to succeed, they require support from many more hands in addition to classroom instructors. Our writing centers are staffed with people like Peg, a part-time employee who spends countless hours of her own time to help students become better writers, understand how to manage time, and to select strong course schedules. Peg and her colleagues are committed to ensure that every student has what they need to access higher education. Our laboratories are staffed with lab coordinators like Jennifer, who work hand in hand with faculty to investigate and bring to fruition lab lessons that will improve the learning experience. Jennifer and her colleagues are committed to ensure that every student has what they need to access higher education. Our campus classrooms are maintained by staff like Rowena, who clean and ready the classrooms and labs so students can focus and learn. Rowena and her colleagues are committed to ensure that every student has what they need to access higher education. Our groundskeepers like Thomas keep our campus properties clear of snow in the winter so students can walk safely to class or the library on wintry days. Thomas's colleagues are committed to ensure that every student has access, literally, to what they need to access higher education. These MC staff members are examples of the multitude of people who serve Montgomery College students each day. These staff members help students, like my mom, who need access to the keys so they too can open the doors of opportunity. Please fully fund the Montgomery College operating budget request so MC staff can continue to help ensure that every student, regardless of ability, background, economic status, race, or age, has access to the higher education they need.
Thank you. Michael Mill.
Good evening, esteemed council members. My name is Shala Dunuga. I am a resident of Silver Spring, Maryland. It is with great pleasure I represent my community tonight. I must also state here that this is my first time in this gathering. I have two sons, one in Burnt Mills Elementary and another one in Jackson Road Elementary. My son in Burnt Mills is a first grader and loves his school so much. He's so passionate about Burnt Mills that he doesn't even want us to move house anytime we give it a thought. He sees Burnt Mills as a second home and can't wait for his little brother to join him in the next school year. I am here tonight because I am very passionate about kids and wanting them to excel in school and all spheres of life. Every child is entitled to this, without a doubt. Esteemed council members, we have a great program at Burnt Mills Elementary called Excel Beyond the Bell. It is without an iota of doubt very beneficial for the progress of these kids. My son hasn't participated yet, but I have few friends that have their kids in the said program. I am very positive that after the school program, would enhance his academics, considering the fact that he would get extra hours of education and the opportunity to interact with adults who will provide guidance and opportunities to discover himself. The parent leadership training is also very key. I have learned how the county government works and how to get involved. Esteemed council members, I am here tonight with some members of Burnt Mills and Action in Montgomery County. We have all come before you to solicit the need to expand beyond the Bell Elementary program so that it cuts across at least 8 schools next year. Another major concern is the construction at Burnt Mills Elementary. Believe me, before now, I had thought the portables were sheds or a playhouse for pre-kindergartens. I was in utter shock and totally dismayed to learn that they were portable classrooms for students. I was brought to tears. I never believed such existed, let alone in the county I reside. It is worthy to note that we have 8 of these portables as I speak, and we will be giving 2 more next year. They are not safe, and it's not conducive for these kids. Council members, that is not a place we desire for our kids to be. There are no bathrooms in them, and this puts a lot of pressure in the bathrooms that they have in the main building, because they don't even have enough as we speak. The building is way too old, and all the infrastructures there are way too old. The ACs do not function properly.
Thank you. We will consider the rest of your written
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Jackie DeCarlo.
Good evening. My name is Jackie DeCarlo. I'm proud to represent Manna Food Center and to be part of this great evening. Thank you for creating this space for community's perspective. Thank you, especially President Navarro, for your exceptional leader thus far in the session, especially around racial equity and social justice. Even though many of you are new to the council, I believe everyone knows that Manna has been an essential part of the community's fabric for more than 35 years. Thanks to the support of the county and private philanthropy, generous residents, last year we were able to feed and educate 31,710 of our neighbors who are not always sure where their next meal is coming from. Tomorrow, you will actually hear from one of our participants, Ms. Michelle Rogers, who's been receiving food support from Manna since 2014. And her story is more important than mine, so I'll keep my comments brief and focused. Manna's request is that the council make nonprofits and the people they serve a priority by supporting the 3% increase in county contracts held by nonprofits. Nonprofits need the same cost of living increases that any other enterprise that does business with the county would expect. Also, please continue to fund the strategies of the county's food security plan, which has been very successful. Especially give support to the Montgomery County Food Council. The Food Council is a critical collective impact partner. They use data to advance strategies, they increase food access and literacy, and they protect people and the planet through Community Food Rescue Network. In terms of Manna's specific request, we have an ambitious campaign called Food for All, which seeks not only to nourish our neighbors, but also to build community. We're very grateful for last year's generous support of a center to end hunger in East County. We still need an additional $75,000 in capital funds up county to renovate our warehouse to be part of that effort. Manna also continues to leverage public dollars to reach 2,900 MCPS school students every Friday through our Smart Sex program. We share food to hundreds of people through Manny, our mobile kitchen and pop-up pantry, and we offer locally grown produce to food insecure neighbors through Farm to Food Bank. In sum, we were requesting $44,000 in support from the community grants programs to keep those operations going. We look forward in the not so distant future for these proven programs to be part of the base budget, and I won't come back to you next year. MANA is a trusted partner of Montgomery County government. We are advocates alongside 60,000 neighbors who are food insecure. We are believers in a more equitable and just society. We look forward to combined efforts with you for Food for All. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Madam President. Compelling testimony tonight, as always. I did want to make one quick comment regarding my colleagues in the special needs community. We hear you. To Ms. Salzano, Ms. Tolbert, Mr. Weens, we understand the very unique needs of your organizations as a council. We, as chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, we are committed to finding not just a short-term but long-term solution to some of the challenges you've mentioned, and we will be calling together a work group to address those issues in the coming year. And Ella, I got to say, I'm a graduate of Walt Whitman High School, and you did a fantastic job in your testimony.
Councilmember Friedson.
Well, I echo everything that Councilmember Albornoz said, but I also wanted to just highlight Ella. Thank you so much for being here. You're a testimony to how much we can learn from our young people, and your poise, your empathy, and the way that you've talked about this issue. With your help and with people like you, we can end the stigma on mental health awareness, and not just talking about this specific grant request, but about the broader issue that we need to be willing to talk much more openly about. And I think more adults are not comfortable with it, and it takes young people like you to show us the way. And so I just want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much for coming this evening. We're now going to move to Group D. We have Steve Yank, Rick Callahan, Kenneth Halber, Ralph Belk, Lyda Astrove, Dennis Secchi, and Laura Mitchell. Steve Yank. Steve Yank here. Okay, can you please press the button at the base of the microphone? There.
Hello, good evening. My name is Eddie Macario, and first of all, I want to thank you all members of the council because you helped me a lot in my case with immigration. I'm going to speak in Spanish, and if you guys can help in order to translate, will be nice. Thank you. Como dije, mi nombre es Eddie Macario. Soy un sobreviviente del fuego y la explosión en Flower Branch Apartments y soy también líder de acción en Montgomery. Hoy quiero hablar sobre algunas cosas que nuestro gobierno local puede hacer para apoyar las familias inmigrantes en nuestro condado de Montgomery. Hace 8 meses yo estaba manejando a mi trabajo cuando ICE me detuvo. Ese día me esposaron por varias horas mientras buscaban mi archivo para buscar cualquier razón para arrestarme y deportarme. Me mantuvieron encarcelado en Glen Burnie durante 4 meses sin saber si alguna vez yo podría volver a ver a mi bebé. Hay estadísticas que dicen que con representación legal garantizada, hasta 12 veces más inmigrantes han podido ganar sus casos, ya sea que puedan obtener alivio legal de la deportación o al menos puedan persuadir a ICE para que abandonen el intento de deportarlos esta vez. Hay estadísticas que dicen que más de 7,000 niños que son ciudadanos de los Estados Unidos perdieron su padre o su madre porque fueron deportados entre 2005 y 2010. Hay estadísticas que dicen que mis hermanos y mis hermanas que son de África, el Caribe y que son afrolatinos son 5 veces más propensos a ser deportados por ICE que mis hermanos y hermanas latinas. Yo he enfrentado personalmente las barreras y los desafíos de conseguir un abogado profesional. La verdad es que yo tenía un caso según la ley de este país para mantenerme acá, pero sin representación hubiera sido imposible mantenerme unido con mi familia. Esto significa que tener acceso a un abogado hace la diferencia entre mantener una familia unida o separada, y que tener acceso a un abogado es un asunto de equidad. Con el apoyo
Vamos a parar un momentito ahí para yo poder traducir un momento, okay? So he said his name is Eddie Macario, and he is the survival of the Long Branch fire. He is here to talk about the need to help immigrant families. 8 months ago, ICE detained him and they tried to find various reasons to justify deporting him, and he felt that perhaps he was never going to be able to see his baby again. He says that legal representation for immigrants is very important, that there are statistics that say that up to 7,000 children have been separated between 2005 2010 from their families. Furthermore, those who are from continental Africa or the Caribbean are 5 times more likely to be deported than Latinos. He understands that he faced challenges to find an attorney, and he also understands that without legal representation, that can make the difference between being separated from his family and being able to win a case. Continúa.
Miembros del Consejo del Condado apoyarán y ayudarán a mantener las familias unidas de inmigrantes al aumentar los fondos para la representación legal de los inmigrantes. Gracias.
And so he's asking the county council to please continue to fund the legal defense fund in order to provide legal representation for families in the county so they can stay together and not be separated. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Rick Callahan.
Good evening. My name is Rick Callahan. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm the executive director of Compass, a private nonprofit supporting people with intellectual developmental disabilities in Montgomery County. Obviously, some of the thunder's already been taken away from my testimony because you're already looking at the work group, so we appreciate all the time that you spent talking to us. I want to confirm that 100% of our DSP wages have been spent on our DSP, the supplement. As you have heard, the methodology that has been used in the past is something that we have been successful in complying. And then September 19th, the executive and the DHS changed that methodology. I'm not going to repeat again. The overtime and the bonuses have been the biggest differences in that understanding. There is no harm in continuing to use the PATH methodology and being more flexible to test compliance. DSP wages, I think, as you heard very clearly tonight, are increasing, and I think that was the real intent of what we're trying to do here. Reducing Compass supplement because this change in methodology will not lead to desired outcomes. In fact, without the supplement, Compass will fall further and further behind to not even meet on average the 125% of the minimum wage, but to meet the minimum wage in the county in itself. Compass has made great strides. 3 years ago, our turnover rate was 44%. Our turnover rate currently is 26%. I mean, that's still very high, but when you think about those strides, that's fairly significant. So we're very proud of that. I'm very concerned that obviously if the DD supplement is changed, that we start to see increased turnover, higher vacancy, and overall lower quality of services. Restore, I think we've already talked about, restore the $1.8 million and also the 1.3 so that we can maintain 125% of the minimum wage. I'm glad to hear that there's already been discussion about forming a work group. I think as we have clearly stated, we're being held accountable all the time by a number of people, and we're very open to continuing to do that and being partners with that. I'm going to end with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor political nor popular, but must take it because conscience tells you it's the right thing. Keep the promise because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Kenneth Haber, please press the button.
Yes, my name's Kenneth Haber. I'm a former Assistant U.S. Attorney, former Senior Attorney in the Inspector General's Office of HHS, and I'm also the volunteer unpaid Chairman or President of the Board of Directors of Compass.
Can you move your microphone so we can hear you? There.
I'm sorry. I'm not here speaking for Compass. I'm here speaking for my daughter. This is a picture of her. You might think this is where she was 8 years old. No, this was just a couple months ago. This is what autism does. It does a lot of things to a lot of people, and it really can mess them up. And she needs substantial services. Should be dead without it. She's been at shopping malls and start stripping. That was with 1-on-1. And now she's got 2-on-1 because of the fact 1-on-1 can't control her when she's out. The staff needs to be able to know her, and she needs to be able to feel comfortable with them. And the only way that's going to happen is that there's constant consistency with the staff and her. And the only way that's going to happen if there's sufficient money that we're able to pay the staff. And this isn't just with her, but all the people that are with autism and other developmental disabilities. They need this sort of consistency with their staff. And I want to thank you, because I know from your reaction and everything else that you're in our corners. And I believe that, and I'm not here to bang on your head because I know you're already there. I thank you for it. And I'll pass the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ralph Belk.
Thank you, Council President Navarro and other council members for permitting me time this evening to testify. My name is Ralph Belk. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the National Center for Children and Families, headquartered in Bethesda, Maryland. As you all know, NCCF is a proven leader in the delivery of innovative housing programs for over 3,000 families. Since 1983, NCCF has provided robust housing services in the Green Tree Shelter, GTS, the largest emergency family shelter in Montgomery County. Today, in addition to GTS, NCCF operates 8 other programs in the county that provide coordinated, effective, and targeted services to families facing extreme poverty. My testimony today is in reference to the county's drive and determination to completely end homelessness in this area. I want to congratulate the county on the success we've had in ending chronic and veteran homelessness. I'm pleased to note that the county has finally begun to pivot its attention to family homelessness, a population that I encounter every day in my work. However, I would like to incite a need for greater urgency around this population and ask that the council dedicate sufficient resources to adequately and properly accommodate the specific needs of this particular population. Recently, Montgomery County DHS released an open solicitation plan for emergency family shelter accommodations, which shifts the provider payment from a reimbursement model to a standard household bed rate comparable to a hotel nightly rate. This new solicitation basically covers food and housing, much needed case management, therapeutic services, and child care costs not included, although the RFP does mention that you can refer out for those services. The nightly bed rate for a household of 7 is a mere $130 a night. This drastic change in the provider payment structure is a divestment from seriously ending family homelessness in our county, a problem that disproportionately affects African Americans at a rate of 64%. As a result, NCCF is asking the council to include the $275,000 that has been recommended by the county executive and add $25,000 for the full requested amount of $300,000. In addition, NCCF is asking the council to match the county executive with $300,000 based on the new RFP to ensure case management, therapeutic services, and child care are covered. These are the services that have led to 98% of our families moving out to safe and stable housing and keeping it for over 2 years. This model practice has led to exceptional results. Even with the infusion of these funds, however, NCCF will still be cutting our budget for Green Tree by 41%. Given the families that we take, we need to keep case management in-house. We certainly are being forced to take a cut, but we don't want to cut out our success as well. Thank you for considering this urgent matter.
Thank you. Slida Astrove here? No? Dennis Second? Please press the button there.
Council members, Madam President, I want to thank you for taking the time to hear what I have to say today. My name is Dennis Saki. I work as a direct support professional with Community Support Services, that's ESS, and I'm asking you to fully fund the supplementary to enable agencies that provide services to developmentally disabled individuals to pay staff above the state funding. 6 years ago, I decided to change careers. I used to be a certified cable technician. A friend of mine told me about the job that he's going to apply for, which is in this type of field, so I applied with him. The HR person said that this job is not for everybody. We said, bring it on. After 1 month of training, my friend lasted for just 4 hours. He went for break, he never came back. I called him, I said, what happened? He said, it's true, this job is not for anybody. The people I support have severe autism and intellectual disabilities and need continuous support. We are dealing with challenging behaviors every day, such as eating, kicking, yelling, and they bite. We are not talking about children. We are also talking about adults that are twice your age. We also implement plans for each person to support them, to follow the rules in the community, stay safe, and interact appropriately with others. We support people who need help with personal hygiene. We minister medication, handle emergency situations such as seizures, choking, and allergic reaction. But the job is also rewarding. We support people to achieve their goals, live in the work, and recreate safely in the community. We support people at their jobs, and we are there when they receive the reward of a paycheck. We are not just caregivers. We are mentors, we are teachers, we are friends, we are drivers, we are nurses, and we advocate for each person. To do that, we have to receive specialized training, CPR, first aid, abuse and neglect, training on how to handle challenging behaviors, how to administer medication. I am a certified CMT. We even have to learn how to cook for them because some of us are from Africa. We don't know how to cook American dishes. Montgomery County has provided a supplement to CSS for many years, which has enabled my wages to increase from $12.46 an hour when I was hired to now $16.12. Without this supplement, the state of Maryland only provides $12.09. This is not enough to get quality DPS to do the job. We need you to fully support and implement the funding. At this time, I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you. CSS have open door policy. You are welcome to come in anytime to see for yourself what we do.
Only if you cook some of the African food for us. All right. Thank you so much. Laura Mitchell. Laura Mitchell? No? Okay, thank you so much. We're going to move on to Group E. Melissa McKenna, Marilyn Kresge-Wolf, Paul Geller, Melanie Stickle, Ann Gibbons, and Robin McIntyre. Okay, Melissa McKenna.
Good evening. Intrepid do-gooder Melissa McKenna back again. Last night, I was here to support the testimony given by several friends. Listening to each speaker reminded me of the importance of doing what's right. As we tell our NAACP AXO students, showing up and doing your best are of paramount importance. Hopefully, this will be my practicing what we preach. Our new county executive sent you a political budget. I urge you to create a budget that, as Mr. Rice so eloquently puts it, a moral document that reflects the priorities and values of the community. My top request is to please fully fund Montgomery College. You've already heard they requested less funding than last year and cut their budget before submitting their request. That $3.1 million is for compensation to attract and retain top-notch teaching staff. Thank you all for including an equity lens in your decision-making process. With this in mind, I challenge you to give greater consideration to persons with disabilities and our differently abled students. In my written testimony is a different version of a famous equality picture of children standing on boxes looking over a fence. Instead of boxes for the third child, a wheelchair user, a high ramp is pictured. I strongly support all of the recommendations Dr. Seth Morgan made last night, especially increased funding for respite care and early screening of infants and toddlers for developmental delays. Some statistics for you, since April is Autism Awareness Month. The most recent study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, released April 2018, cites Maryland as having the second highest rate of autism in the country. The rate of 1 in 50 is up from 1 in 55 just 2 years ago. As we look to bolster pre-K access and kindergarten readiness, please stipulate additional funding for MCPS special education programs that serve students aged 3 to 5 years, such as CAP and PEP. Early, intense support for students and their families makes all the difference, perhaps even averting continued special education services. And so I've come to MCPS after all. With our public schools, it's not just the amount of funding, but the continuity of funding over time that is important. Our schools need consistency of staff, not just total allocation. Last night you heard about school counselor positions increased and then rescinded. We and MCPS can do better. The uncertainty of specific staff positions and their schedule hours per week vary from year to year and is very disruptive. Please request position allocation changes with rationale from MCPS. We too often hear about similar staffing at similar schools. That is not equity, that is equality. Special education is special for a reason. It needs something different. Let's fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Kresge-Wolf.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Marilyn Kresge-Wolf, and today I'm representing Jews United for Justice. Jews United for Justice represents over 2,000 Jews from across Montgomery County who act on our shared Jewish values by pursuing social and economic justice and racial equality in our local communities. I've just retired as Executive Director of Open Arms Housing in D.C. after a long career of program direction and advocacy in Baltimore, Montgomery County, and the district. It's been over 13 years since I've testified here, since leaving Every Mind, which in my day was called the Mental Health Association, where I directed homeless services. The Jewish tradition of tikkun olam, meaning repairing the world, teaches us that the best way to enable those less fortunate in society is to give them tools for self-sufficiency. As the philosopher Maimonides said, the greatest way to support a person is by endowing him or her with a gift or loan or entering into a partnership or finding employment in order to strengthen his hand so that he will not need to be dependent on others. JUFJ's priorities for the county's operating budget mirror this theme in two ways: to assist nonprofits that provide a safety net of services for the most vulnerable, the hungry, the homeless, those with disabilities, and those who are the youngest and the oldest. We support a 3% increase in the budget so that agencies have the resources they need to function at what they do best, assisting and empowering the needy to be self-sufficient. Second, we support County Executive Elrick and Council President Navarro's proposed $7 million increase in funding for early childhood education for this year and each of the next 3 years to reach a total of $30 million in new spending. One of the most important lessons from serving people in poverty is that they yearn to learn and to work. Many in their early years lack the basics. Let's support getting Montgomery County's kids off to a good start so that in the future they will be equipped with skills that lead to self-sufficiency. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Paul Geller.
Good evening. I've heard a lot of people come here and ask for money, and I don't blame them one iota. I'm actually here to do something different. I'm going to give you money. How about if I gave you $20 million? Would that be okay? Would you mind? You'll take it. Good, I got a taker. Okay. First of all, I would really like you to fully fund Montgomery College. That's an additional $3.1 million. The second thing is going to generate revenue for Montgomery County. For far too long, I've been tilting at windmills with Annapolis, trying to make sure that the casino lockbox for education was established. Now, this is bringing in revenues to our school thanks to the voters back in November approving this. However, the state delegates and senators have decided that they are going to possibly tap this money for school construction funds. I want to make you clearly aware of this. This is a major problem because operating budget funds come from you, mostly. So we're going to have a big struggle coming up if we keep tapping into that lockbox for education. Second thing is we must get more money from casino gambling revenue from table games. We're only getting 15 cents on the dollar. When we approved this in November 2012, we were told this would mostly go for education. Primary purpose is to raise revenues for education. 15 cents on the dollar is not doing this. I keep telling you this because I need your help with our state delegates to drill this into them, that this is important, they must do this. So that would equal about $24 million, and you subtract the $3 million that I want from Montgomery College, so we still got $21 million. But now I want to ask for something personal for once. I want you to support the addition of 2 more detectives to the financial crimes section of the Montgomery County Police Department. This may seem like a very trivial matter, but really the only reason why I'm sitting here today is thanks to 2 wonderful detectives that helped me find an embezzler and MCC PTA that took more than $39,000 from our organization when I served as president. I wanted to have a heart attack and drop dead the night I found out someone stole money from an organization I was entrusted with leading. It was the worst moment of my life. I knew I wanted to run for office and I didn't know what to do. I ended up contacting them and they guided me through the entire process. They told me I had to present the case to them. I had to do all the financial reporting. I had to do all the background and give it to them. And we did everything to the letter of what they did. They have 400 cases each month that come to their attention, and there's only 6 people. If we could find maybe $250,000 to support 2 more of them, it would be greatly appreciated. It would make Montgomery County a much more friendly place to do business in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Melanie Stickle?
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Melanie Stickle, and I'm here today to talk about the cuts proposed to the Department of Recreation and County Parks. These departments are essential to the county's priority outcomes of thriving youth and families. In recent surveys, the public indicated the importance of early childhood education, childcare, and recreation, which supports families requiring after-school programming and summer camps. I believe there are some areas the council should reconsider in order to provide for our youth and support the families of Montgomery County. Residents deserve quality and accessible childcare and after-school programs. The Department of Recreation is facing nearly $900,000 in reductions, including $165,000 in operating money. Currently, the Department of Recreation provides 50 community and countywide events, including local family movie nights and large-scale events such as the July 4th, and they serve over 60,000 residents. This reduction will greatly limit these activities and eliminate the opportunity to promote community and reduce social isolation. Just yesterday, national data was released with alarming numbers, showing suicidal thoughts and attempts have doubled between 2007 and 2015 among children from age 5 to age 18. We owe it to our children and their families, and Ella, who we heard tonight, of all socioeconomic levels, a safe place to grow and to have relationships. Additionally, the budget proposes a $60,000 cut to youth events, such as the spring break basketball tournament and the talent shows, which teach our county youth valuable life skills. The elimination of these programs will negatively impact our youth and their families who want to keep them active and out of harm's way. Department of Recreation after-school and summer programs like Excel Beyond the Bell, food, fitness, and summer fun centers provide access to over 250 snacks and meals. In addition, these after-school and summer programs provide county families with a safe place to enroll their children. The shortage of affordable and accessible summer camp is a very real concern, and each year local families struggle to piece together childcare solutions with high-quality camps and services from the Department of Recreation. With Governor Hogan extending the summer to accommodate Ocean City businesses, local families are left with a hefty childcare bill and often a lack of summer care options. The Montgomery County Department of Recreation provides a valuable service to families year-round, and especially in the summer month, and the service needs to be expanded, not cut. I have 2 children, aged 5 and 3, and dread the coming race to ensure my child has a safe place next summer so that I can go to work. Each year, summer camps provided by the Department of Recreation sell out within minutes. The need is great, and the last thing Montgomery families need is less affordable and accessible programming and summer camps. With my last 3 seconds, happy birthday, Tom Hucker.
Happy birthday.
Celebrating.
Ann Gibbons.
Hi, I'm Ann Gibbons. Thank you so much, council members. I can't believe that you do this for so many hours and so many days, and it just speaks to your compassion and dedication. I mean, we've got some of the lone holdouts out here, but my son Philip was here earlier. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to thank you so much for agreeing to form a work group regarding financial support of the local providers of direct care to people with developmental disabilities. At President Navarro, I want to thank you for something very specific. You may not realize that people actually read the letters you send back to them, but I have been clinging to this sentence for the last several days. You said Montgomery County has for decades supported these organizations with county funding because we agree that our residents with developmental disabilities need talented, dedicated, and consistent staff. All I can think of is that awesome guy in the black hat, right? Who wouldn't want him as part of your community caring for your son? You guys have some really hard choices to make, and I don't envy you. So all I can do is tell you a story. My 30-year-old son has autism. 6 years ago, the state of Maryland told me that it was no longer safe for my son to live in my family home. His unchecked acts of aggression and self-injury, well, they broke my heart. I always thought my family could go it alone, that we didn't need any outside support. And I was mistaken. CSAC, the second adult service agency that took us in, not the first, now supports Philip, and he is thriving. He was here earlier tonight. Through consistent positive reinforcement and an active, engaging schedule, Philip works and lives in Montgomery County, and every weekend he has dinner with his mom. Without the talented and trained staff of CSAC, I honestly do not know if I would have survived my son's unchecked aggression. You heard Senator Montgomery in the red jacket speak earlier. That was not hyperbole, and that was not a one-off story. I understand you've heard from, I've been here out in the hallway, but I listened to Eric Salzano tell you the situation that we found ourselves in, that the executive's budget actually seems to be predicated on a mistake. So thank you for the work group, and help us really figure out what's incorrect. Everybody makes mistakes, but we own up to them. That's what we do as part of a community. I made a mistake. I thought I could go it alone, but I learned. So please renew your financial commitment that you have made for decades to agencies like CSAC with 40 years track record, and I really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Robin McIntyre.
Thank you very much for hearing me, council members. I'm Robin McIntyre. My husband and I are both in our mid-70s. We have been retired since 2007. We cannot take care of our 46-year-old son, Paul McIntyre. He is being cared for by trained people who know exactly what they are doing. They know how to handle him. It is a difficult job requiring much training and expertise. With that support, he can function in the community. Without it, he cannot possibly function in the community. His mental age is 2 years old. He was brain damaged at birth. His language is 1 or 2 word sentences. If he cannot make his needs known, he may have a tantrum and punch holes in walls. According to his psychiatrist, he has intermittent explosive disorder. He is very strong. When he goes to the dentist, it takes 3 people to hold him down to get his teeth cleaned, even when he has been medically sedated. Paul's vocational counselor has to work a second job to support his wife and son. He has been with Paul since 2001. Paul has been living in a group home run by CSAC, that's Community Services for Autistic Adults and Children, since 1992. If CSAC loses the county supplemental funding for the coming years, it may need to shut down. That would be a disaster for Paul and for us and for the community. If he loses his place at CSAC, he would be homeless. Please continue the supplemental funding for CSAC.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. We have heard you loud and clear, and tomorrow we're going to do this all over again at 1:30 p.m. and then at 7 p.m., and then we'll start our work sessions on Thursday. Thank you, and have a safe drive home.